Hey guys, it's Carter, coming at you a little congested. However, nonetheless, I'm making this video. It's too important not to make because we've seen an impressive rally in the SPY, especially in crypto as well. I'm going to show you in this video the SPY, which is my S&P tracking ETF I used to trade. I'm going to show you Bitcoin. I'm going to show you Ethereum. Yeah, we're going to touch on crypto in this video because it has been on fire. And I want to show you the levels that I think we're going to fall back into in the coming days and potentially week or two, because I think there's going to be a little short-term weakness before we continue the rally to the upside. And so today I'm going to show you the levels that I think we're going to fall into. So let's waste no more time on the intro. Let's jump into the content. All right, so here we are looking at the chart of the SPY. We're at 579, and you can see this vertical line on the screen right here. There's actually a couple of them at our capitulation lows. I made a video right here about the stock market. I think I titled it Bear Market WTF or something like that. We were right here, and I said we could potentially confirm our support of the prior market high made in 2021. Well, we did just that on the capitulation lows, and guess what? My personal self-created indicator, the market capitulation identifier, fired for only the fourth distinct time since the year 2000. So in this century, it has only fired now. This is the fourth distinct period. So look at that, marked the lows very nicely, and I made a lot of money going long, but actually have sold a lot of my positions last week up here. I'm going to get to why in a couple minutes, but I also want to show you the power of this indicator. It fired in 2020. We can zoom in on the lows right here. This indicator fired here. We can even zoom back to 2008, 2009. It fired multiple times in this area down here. Every time it fired, significant 20% bounces occurred. And it also fired here in 2002 as well, near the lows. So yeah, very powerful indicator called the capitulation identifier I have developed here. And it worked yet again. And it was actually this signal that I anticipated firing because I knew the requirements for it to fire, which was why I was so bullish down at this point down here. All right, but now let's get into why I've actually taken profits over the last week from getting long down here at the capitulation lows. So simply, why have I taken profits? Well, we're running into resistance up here, and we've actually started to pull back very nicely as anticipated. And to add further confluence, I think this has been a three-wave move to the upside pretty clearly here. So we had a fib target right there, the 127. Right in here was going to act as resistance. I said, hey, if we potentially break through that, I'll take more profits up here. This is about the all-time high. We never got to that point, or at least not yet. There's a chance we could still bust through this resistance head up here, but I think that's a lower probability right now without a further decline. So on this pullback that I'm anticipating in the coming week or two, I would anticipate as a bare minimum, with high certainty, we're going to fill this gap right here, so it dropped down to 572. Keep in mind, that's only a couple percent to the downside. We're at 579, not even a couple percent. However, I think it's likely we dip a little lower than that, possibly 560, 550, and see a more significant retracement of this move to the upside, because I think it has been a significant move to the upside. So I think we should look closer towards 550 as being a level of support. So why the short-term bearish bias all of a sudden on the SPY? Well, simply we're into resistance, and we've also actually lost some ascending support right here as well. So you can see how we've now dropped this ascending support line, which by the way was inevitable. It was absolutely inevitable. That's way too steep to carry on forever. And yeah, we're going to see a little bit of a pullback. That's what I think is likely. But I think it's going to be a pullback that is corrective and an opportunity to buy in on and see further upside on the SPY. So in conclusion on the SPY, I'm looking for a little bit of downside in the week or two to come on the SPY, and I'm ultimately going to be acting as if this is an opportunity to get long on the SPY, provided we can hold this support down here at 510. So if we can hold 510, there's no red flags going off in my book, and I'm looking for at least 572 to the downside, and I'm going to start accumulating closer to 550. I think that's going to be the sweet spot to start buying in heavier. because ultimately I do see us making new all-time highs in the months to come. All right, looking at Bitcoin now, we're trading just under 108,000 right now, and my goodness, what a move to the upside we've seen. I said in my last video about Bitcoin that we were probably going to see a surge into this resistance up here that we saw, and the pullback from this level would determine what is likely to come next. And guess what? We went sideways, making a bull flag at resistance. So our pullback was going sideways, which, if you know anything about probabilities, means we're heading to the upside with high probabilities. So yeah, that was bullish consolidation right at resistance, exactly what the bulls wanted to see. You headed up textbook, and you headed right up into the next resistance, which was the all-time high. But we've done something a little bit peculiar up here. So what am I looking for on Bitcoin here in the coming up weeks? Well, actually some downside here. Yeah, I know, shocking. We haven't really seen any downside in the last month and a half, and I think it's actually overdue. And I think it's likely at this point because we've now seen a bit of a bull trap up here. So we had our all-time high of January of 2025. We actually closed and confirmed above that level right here. However, on Friday, closed a bearish engulfing candle that took us back below the all-time high. So this up here to me is a bull trap, which normally when you see these, you see in a more aggressive move to the downside. And as long as we're holding this support, which was prior resistance over here, so resistance should now become support. And as long as we're holding this support in the low to mid 90,000s, then I think we're going to be looking for higher prices in Bitcoin in the months to come. But long story short, we have created a bull trap up here and should anticipate seeing some downside towards the mid to low 90,000s. And as long as we can hold this to the downside, we're going to be all good in the hood. It is a significant problem if we break 90,000 to the downside. I do not anticipate Bitcoin doing that. But a pullback is very likely. We've been pretty much overbought for the last month on Bitcoin here on the daily RSI. And yeah, we need to see a pullback. I think it's about to happen. All right, Ethereum. Let's cover this chart as well. It's actually doubled Bitcoin's performance over the last month and a half. Beautiful move to the upside right now. And I think we're actually seeing a more complex downside move than in the SPY and in Bitcoin. To me, this looks like the making of an A, B, C pattern to the downside. And yeah, I think it's going to take us lower towards 2200 to 2050 before we see a bit of a bottom here and move to the upside again. So why the 2200 to 2050 level here? Because we have a retracement of this move to the upside, and you can see how the 0.5 level and the 0.382 matches up with this structural support we have on the chart from previous price history over here very well. So it lines up very well, but also if you project the A wave to the downside with an extension here, then you can see, pull it to the top of the B wave, that the two best levels, and yeah, it's a mess right here, line up with this region as well. I'm going to get rid of my retracement, and you can see my extension. Oh, the two best extension levels for a C wave to the downside right in here, the purple and blue line. So now let's get rid of my extension. But long story short, it seems like everything is lining up at the $2,200 to $2,050 level on Ethereum. That's where I'd be looking to accumulate more if we fall into this level. Based on probabilities right now, it's likely Ethereum's going to head down to at least 2200, possibly a little lower towards 2050 and reverse off that level. I'd look for price to see a reaction at those levels indicated below. All right, that's all I have in this video. Look for days to a couple weeks of weakness in the SPY, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Before we reverse back to the upside, I believe we have some more downside in the very short term. However, if we hold the key support levels that I've discussed in this video, we're going to be all good and should be seeing new all-time highs on the SPY, on Bitcoin, and who knows, maybe Ethereum as well, but Ethereum has a lot more work to do than the other two. But I do think there's going to be new local highs on Ethereum once we see a drop and hold the key support. All right, that's all I have in this video. Take care.